picture a kitchen, just, a really quiet, really warm kitchen.
Mhm.
And there's this young woman standing at a wooden table, and her hands are just completely, like, dusted in white flour.
Right, she's baking.
Exactly. She is meticulously, almost reverently, crimping the edges of a lemon tart, just totally lost in this dream about the day she can finally open her own little bakery.
It's a very peaceful image.
It is. But now I want you to hold that image in your mind. Take that exact same young woman and fast forward just a little bit.
Okay.
Picture her sitting on a throne. Her eyes are just completely dead and cold. She's staring down at a terrified subject, and she is screaming, "Off with his head."
Yeah, the chasm between those two images is it's staggering.
It really is.
Because when we look at historical tyrants or, iconic literary villains, we always have this innate desire to believe they were just simply born that way.
Oh, for sure. We want to believe evil is just this clean, inherent trait, like some dark seed that just sprouts inevitably no matter what.
Exactly. We want it to be simple.
Because if they are just born evil, it makes the world feel safer for the rest of us. It means we could never become them.
Right. It separates us from the monsters.
But human psychology is never that simple, and it is certainly never that safe. The recipe for a monster is often deeply, deeply complex.
It's a process.
It is a process. And today you are joining us to unpack the anatomy of a villain. We're going to figure out how a passionate, pie-baking dreamer gets twisted into the notorious, head-chopping Queen of Hearts.
And the exploration of this transformation takes us directly into Marissa Meyer's novel, Heartless.
Such a fascinating book.
It really is. It functions as an origin story, right?
Yeah.
A prequel that takes the whimsical, kind of nonsensical world of Wonderland that you might be familiar with, and it just dissects it.
Yeah, it strips away the cartoonish stuff.
Exactly. It reveals these very dark, very real psychological underpinnings. We aren't just looking at talking animals or quirky magic in this deep dive.
No, definitely not.
We're examining the mechanics of fate. We're looking at the crushing weight of systemic societal pressure and how profound, inescapable trauma can literally rewrite a person's core identity.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start right there in the kitchen, because to understand the monster, you really have to understand the girl.
You do. You have to look at Catherine.
Right, Kath. And the source material is incredibly specific about her process here. She isn't just throwing some dough in a pan.
No, it's a whole ordeal.
We're talking about a 5-hour, agonizingly precise process to make just 3 perfect lemon tarts.
5 hours.
Yeah. She is weighing butter, she is straining egg yolks and lemon juice until they are like the exact color of buttercups.
The detail is wild.
She is even candying these delicate little strips of lemon peel so they look like rose blossoms.
And that authorial choice, to linger on those sensory details, it serves a very specific psychological purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
This baking process grounds Kath in a world that she can actually control.
Which she desperately needs.
Exactly. Because she is the daughter of the Marquess and Marchioness of Rock Turtle Cove. She is high aristocracy.
Very high up the social ladder.
Right. And in her daily life, she has zero control over her future, her associations, or even her own body. But in the kitchen, chemistry applies.
Right. If she needs the dough for the right amount of time, it becomes perfect.
It is an environment of absolute, predictable cause and effect, which is something she just desperately lacks everywhere else in Wonderland.
And there's this really beautiful touch of magical realism right in the center of her meticulous process. The lemons she is using for these tarts, they aren't from the local market.
No, they're not.
They magically grew on a tree that sprouted in her bedroom overnight. And it was born entirely from a dream she had about a mysterious boy with lemon yellow eyes.
Which is such a striking image. And those lemons, they represent the intrusion of the unknown into her highly structured aristocratic world.
Right.
But notice what she does with them. She doesn't panic. She bakes them into something beautiful.
She controls the chaos.
Yes. She takes the chaotic magic of Wonderland and processes it through her own talent. She views baking as an absolute art form.
She takes it very seriously.
And more importantly, it is her singular path to independence.
And this is where we run into the central conflict of her early life. Kath wants to open a bakery. She already has the name picked out and everything. Sweets and tarts, yeah. And she wants to open it with her maid, Marianne, who is essentially her best friend.
Right.
But there is a massive socioeconomic disconnect here between Kath's internal desires and the reality of her gilded cage.
Oh, a massive disconnect. Because to the Marchioness, her mother, The idea of a noble one engaging in commerce is horrific.
Just unthinkable.
Standing behind a counter, handling money, performing manual labor. It is not just silly to her mother, it is an existential threat to the family's social standing.
Yeah, the aristocracy of Hearts operates on a very strict currency.
Status and advantageous marriages.
Exactly. Kath's life has been entirely mapped out for her. She is a political asset, plain and simple.
And her mother views the baking as this humiliating servant's task that just needs to be stamped out before it ruins Kath's marketability.
Which brings us to a scene that is honestly just physically uncomfortable to read. It's the night of this major royal ball.
Oh, this scene.
Kath is up in her room, right? She's covered in flour from the tarts, just happily daydreaming about the bakery. And her mother bursts in, absolutely frantic, and forces Kath into this violently red, heavy, cleavage-bearing velvet gown.
And the physical restriction of that dress really mirrors the psychological restriction of her entire life.
Totally.
The mother demands the corset be tightened to a 22-inch waist. She explicitly forbids Kath from eating dinner so she can fit into it.
It's awful.
And Kath is very vocal about how exposed, how heavy, and how fundamentally uncomfortable she feels in this garment.
And then the trap snaps shut. Kath arrives at the castle. The White Rabbit announces her family.
Right.
Kath walks down the grand staircase in this voluminous, blazing crimson dress, and she looks out at a sea of black and white.
Oh, it's brutal.
It is a strictly enforced black and white themed ball. Ivory tails, crow feather bow ties, zebra masks.
Everything is monochrome.
Even the courtiers from the diamond suit have pasted black spades over their natural red marks just to comply with the theme.
Wow.
And there is Kath, looking like a literal bleeding wound in the middle of a monochrome room.
And the realization of what actually happened there is a severe betrayal of trust.
Oh, the betrayal is deep.
Kath looks at her parents, and they're wearing perfectly matched, pristine white outfits.
They knew.
Her mother knew the theme. The Marchioness deliberately orchestrated her own daughter's public humiliation.
It's just so toxic.
The psychological violence of that act is profound. You know, a parent is supposed to protect their child from public ridicule.
Right, but her mother weaponized it.
Exactly. She weaponized it just to make Kath noticeable.
Noticeable to the King of Hearts. And we really need to talk about the king for a second, because he is not some imposing, majestic ruler.
No, not at all.
He is bumbling, he's simple-minded, and he's constantly giggling. He's just obsessed with partying and eating.
He's a child in a crown.
Pretty much. And her mother used her as a literal glowing red beacon to catch the eye of this man.
It's manipulative.
Highly manipulative. And, you know, it's very easy to look at this dynamic and just slap the rebellious teen trope label on it.
Sure, yeah.
You see it all the time, right? The teenager wants to follow her artistic dreams. The strict parents want her to conform and get a real job.
It's a classic setup.
But looking at the actual mechanics of what Kath and Marianne are doing, it feels infinitely more desperate than just teen rebellion.
Well, let's examine those mechanics. How are they operating outside of that standard trope?
Well, I look at Kath and Marianne, and they act way more like modern-day indie startup founders than rebellious teenagers.
Oh, that's an interesting way to put it.
Right, because they aren't just daydreaming. Marianne is literally running market calculations.
She really is.
She is crunching numbers on storefront rentals in the town square. She's analyzing their daily pastry output, calculating raw ingredient costs, and projecting their profitability over a one-year timeline.
They have a whole business plan.
They do. They are trying to figure out how to use Kath's dowry as angel investment to get the business off the ground.
Right.
Meanwhile, her parents are trying to force a hostile corporate merger by marrying her off to the king.
That is exactly what it is, a hostile merger.
So to me, the bakery isn't just a hobby. It's a desperate grasp for agency. Isn't it essentially the only way she can own her own labor in a world that views her purely as property?
The text absolutely supports that reading. The bakery is completely about ownership of the self.
Yeah.
But the tragedy is that her fierce grip on this dream of independence is exactly what makes her so vulnerable.
Because the mother's plan works.
It does. Her mother's hostile merger strategy is effective. The king notices her in the red dress. He becomes infatuated with her, and suddenly the walls of the gilded cage start closing in much, much faster than Kath anticipated.
She's trapped.
She is thrust into a chaotic courtship that she actively reviles.
And right in the middle of this suffocating social nightmare at the ball, while she is literally trying to hide from the king and dodge the sneers of mean girls like Margaret Merle, she meets Jest.
Yes.
Jest is the new court joker.
Yeah.
He is witty. He performs these seemingly impossible magic tricks.
He's very charismatic.
Very. And to Kath's absolute shock, he's the boy from her dream. The boy with the lemon yellow eyes.
But Jest is operating under a very heavy disguise. He is not a court entertainer.
Not even a little bit.
He is a rook. He and his companion, this sentient rhyming bird named Raven, are highly trained operatives from the neighboring war-torn land of Chess.
Chess, the land of the red and white queendoms. We really need to contrast these two kingdoms because the geopolitical landscape here is wild.
It's a study in extremes.
Exactly. Hearts, where Kath lives, is entirely defined by willful ignorance.
Yes. The sociopolitical strategy of Hearts is toxic positivity on an institutional scale.
Institutional toxic positivity. I love that phrasing.
It fits perfectly. The king is fundamentally a coward. His governing philosophy is that if you ignore a problem long enough and eat enough sweets, the problem simply ceases to exist.
Just put your fingers in your ears and hum.
Exactly. When genuine threats emerge, the citizens of Hearts are conditioned to look the other way. They prioritize croquet matches and tea parties over defense or actual governance.
It's maddening to read, but then you look across the border at Chess, and it's the exact inverse.
It is.
Chess is trapped in an endless, brutal cycle of violence between the red and white armies.
It is a forever war, but with a horrifying temporal twist. It operates like a literal game of chess.
Right.
Every time it seems one side might actually achieve a definitive victory, time itself seems to fracture or reset, and the slaughter just begins all over again.
It never ends.
The pawns and knights are continuously sacrificed, and Jest is a product of this environment. He is a tragic, battle-weary soldier who has watched countless friends die in a war that structurally cannot end.
So what is a battle-hardened rook doing juggling at a black and white ball in Hearts?
He's looking for a way to break the cycle.
He is on a highly classified mission from the White Queen of Chess. He was sent across the border, through the looking glass, into Hearts, to find the future Queen of Hearts.
Right.
His objective is to steal her heart and bring it back to Chess, because they believe that the heart of a queen from a peaceful land can somehow end the eternal war.
And the tactical execution of his mission is where the psychological manipulation really comes in.
Oh, it gets dark.
Jest explains his philosophy to Kath much later, in this magical, timeless meadow that exists between the borders of their two lands.
Yeah.
He reveals his core operating principle to her. He says, the easiest way to steal something is for it to be given willingly.
Here's where it gets really interesting. This is the ultimate long con.
It really is.
Jest's entire plan was to identify the girl who would marry the king, make her fall completely in love with him, and then accept her heart as a willing gift, only to abscond with it back to Chess.
A perfect spy operation.
But the plan derails because the spy goes native. He actually falls in love with his mark.
The irony is profound. He becomes compromised by the very emotion he was trying to weaponize against her. He realizes that Catherine is intelligent, fiercely passionate, and exactly the kind of ruler his own broken kingdom desperately needs.
She's everything Chess doesn't have.
Exactly. He realizes he cannot bring himself to destroy her, so he breaks his cover. He confesses his true identity as a rook, admits to his original mission, and tells her he ruined the plan by falling for her.
Okay, let's pause here, because I have to push back on the romanticization of Jest in this scenario.
Fair enough.
Yes, he falls in love and confesses, but look at his actions leading up to that confession.
They're questionable.
Extremely questionable. For weeks, he knew exactly who he was dealing with. He knew Kath despised the king. He knew she felt trapped and suffocated by the prospect of marriage, yet he actively gaslighted her.
He did push her towards the king.
He kept subtly encouraging her to accept the king's courtship. He pushed the girl he supposedly loved toward a man she loathed, entirely because his mission required her to become the queen before he could steal her heart.
It's incredibly manipulative.
Can we really just forgive that level of manipulation? I mean, he treated her emotional well-being like a literal game piece on a chessboard.
Well, the narrative does not let him off the hook for this. And Kath herself is utterly furious when she discovers the depth of the manipulation.
As she should be.
She accuses him of exactly what you just said, treating her like a pawn. But let's look at the psychology of a soldier from a forever war.
Okay.
Jest's defense is deeply rooted in extreme utilitarianism. He has watched entire generations of his people be slaughtered.
Right, the stakes are different for him.
To his mind, sacrificing the personal happiness of one privileged girl in a peaceful kingdom was a highly acceptable, even necessary price to pay to save thousands of lives and end eternal bloodshed.
It is a classic trolley problem.
Exactly. Does he pull the lever and crush Kath's dreams to save the kingdom of chess?
It's the ultimate moral gray area. Do the needs of the many outweigh the trauma inflicted on the one?
And while they are locked in this philosophical and emotional stalemate, the decision is essentially ripped out of their hands entirely.
Like something worse.
Yes. The tactical games of chess and the willful ignorance of hearts are both upended by the arrival of a chaotic threat that neither kingdom can control or negotiate with.
The Jabberwock.
The Jabberwock.
While Kath is juggling her mother's demands, the king's suffocating courtship, and her secret nighttime meetings with Jest, a shadow just falls over hearts.
It gets very dark, very fast.
The narrative introduces us to Hatta, the Mad Hatter, and the absolute nightmare of the Jabberwock.
Hatta is a pivotal figure here. He operates a traveling hat shop called the Marvelous Millinery.
Right.
But he is not just a tailor. He traverses the looking glass, moving between the magical realms.
Yeah.
And his hats are infused with magic from chess, and they operate on a deeply invasive level.
Yeah, they're not just accessories.
When you put on one of Hatta's hats, it literally alters your personality.
The examples in the book are fascinating. He crafts this macaron-themed hat for Kath, and when she wears it, she suddenly possesses the uninhibited confidence she needs to finally pitch her bakery idea to her father.
Which she couldn't do before.
Right. He makes a carousel hat for a lion, which transforms this timid creature into a brave, operatic performer.
But we must examine the ethics of what Hatta is doing.
Oh, the ethics are non-existent.
He believes he's providing a service, giving people the traits they lack, but he is artificially rewriting their neurochemistry.
Yeah.
And these artificial alterations have massive, unforeseen collateral damage.
It totally reminds me of the Wild West of biohacking or like highly unregulated social media algorithms.
That's a great comparison.
Hatta is handing out these quick magical fixes. Here, put this on, you'll be brave. Put this on, you'll be confident.
Just quick fix.
But he has run 0 clinical trials on the long-term side effects of giving a timid creature unchecked bravery. Is that lion actually brave, or is he just intoxicated by the hat?
He's intoxicated.
Because later, that artificial bravery leads the lion to stand up to the Jabberwock, and he gets slaughtered.
That is a perfect parallel. The artificial confidence completely overrides their natural survival instincts. And the ultimate manifestation of Hatta's reckless magic is the Jabberwock itself.
Right.
The monster that begins terrorizing hearts is not just a random beast from the wilderness. It is the result of a biological mutation caused by Hatta.
We eventually learn the horrifying truth about this. The Jabberwock is actually the wife of Peter.
The pumpkin eater from the nursery rhyme.
Exactly. Hatta brought pumpkin seeds back from the land of chess, seeds that were infused with the dark, altering magic of the looking glass. Peter's wife ate them, and her biology was violently rewritten. She mutated into this insatiable, terrifying creature of shadow, fire, and scaly skin.
And how does the Kingdom of Hearts respond when a fire-breathing mutation begins snatching citizens in the night?
Oh, it is the ultimate display of institutional avoidance. There is a brutal scene where the Jabberwock attacks a party at the castle.
Your ballroom scene.
It literally shatters the red glass windows, reaches into the ballroom, and snatches 2 diamond courtiers right off the floor.
It's chaos.
People are screaming, glass is everywhere, and the king's immediate response: total denial.
Complete denial.
He decides that the best way to handle 2 citizens being eaten alive is to distract the populace. He concludes that what the kingdom really needs right now is a royal wedding.
A party.
If everyone is focused on celebrating his marriage to Catherine, they won't think about the monster.
The psychology of the king is terrifying in its own right. He uses forced celebration as a weapon of mass distraction.
That's exactly what it is.
He refuses to mobilize guards or investigate the threat. It forces the burden of action onto the citizens.
Kath is the only one who actually wants to fight. During a later attack at a town festival, while the king is literally cowering and hiding, Kath runs toward the danger.
She's the only brave one.
She grabs the mythical Vorpal sword. She takes on the responsibility that the monarch refuses to shoulder, which makes you look at Hatta and wonder about his responsibility in all of this.
Right.
We learn his backstory, and it is incredibly tragic. He comes from a long lineage of Hatters who all inevitably go mad.
It's a genetic certainty for him.
They lose their minds, and it almost always ends in suicide. Hadda is constantly moving, constantly traveling through the looking glass to outrun time itself, terrified of his own deteriorating mind.
He is a man running from an inescapable genetic curse. His obsession with hats, with changing personalities, stems from his desperate desire to change his own fate.
I understand the tragedy, I really do. But is he really just a victim of fate?
Well,
Or is he a reckless entrepreneur unleashing psychological weapons on a naive kingdom to line his own pockets and fund his escape? He mutates a woman into a monster and gets a lion killed.
the complexity of Hadda is that he is both. His desperation makes him entirely blind to the destruction he causes.
He just doesn't see it.
He's so consumed by the terror of his own line unraveling that he cannot see the unraveling of the kingdom around him.
Wow.
And his desperation to escape his fate acts as the catalyst that forces Catherine to make her own desperate choice. All of these threads, the king's cowardice, Jest's mission, Hadda's madness, and the Jabberwock's terror, they all converge at the ultimate threshold in the story, the treacle well.
The tension at this point in the narrative is at an absolute boiling point. The king is suffocating Cath, demanding an answer to his proposal. The Jabberwock is slaughtering people. Jest has offered her an out. Leave Hearts, leave the bakery dream, and run away with him to chess. And Hadda is rapidly losing his grip on reality.
He's spiraling.
So the four of them, Cath, Jest, Hadda, and Raven, they flee. They enter the crossroads, this shifting, magical intersection of realities, and they arrive at the treacle well to cross over into chess.
The physical layout of the treacle well is highly symbolic. It is the doorway between the lands, but it is not a simple gate.
No.
It is inhabited by the three sisters, Tilly, Elsie, and Lacey.
These sisters are pure nightmare fuel.
They really are.
They are these creepy, childlike oracles who live at the bottom of a well filled with sweet, sticky, suffocating molasses the treacle.
Yeah.
They wear animal masks, an owl, a raccoon, and a fox. And they operate like a toll booth for reality.
A toll booth, yes.
They don't just let you pass, they demand payments. They take physical items like bells from Jest's hat or feathers from Raven.
Right.
But then they turn to Hadda and they demand something conceptual. They steal minutes right out of his pocket watch.
Let's analyze the nature of the sisters here. They are not merely gatekeepers. They represent the inescapable force of fate, or perhaps entropy itself.
Entropy, yeah.
By stealing minutes from Hadda, they are actively accelerating his descent into madness. They are taking away the one resource he is desperately trying to hoard, time.
It's so cruel.
And they deal an absolute prophecy. As the group prepares to cross through the looking-glass maze into the safety of chess, the sisters deliver a chilling forward prophecy specifically targeting Catherine.
Murderer, martyr, monarch, mad.
4 words that map out the inevitable destruction of their group. And to ensure Catherine understands the gravity of this, they provide a visual aid.
The drawing.
They show her a drawing. It is an image of Cath, but not the flower-covered baker. It is Cath as a tyrannical queen of hearts, surrounded by pools of blood, gripping a scepter topped with a heart.
So dark.
And her expression is utterly devoid of warmth. Hadda, who has dealt with the sisters before and knows their power, explicitly warns Cath that the sisters' prophecies are never wrong. They always come true.
Cath is absolutely horrified. She is standing right at the precipice. She holds a shrinking potion in her hand. She has a binary choice. Drink the potion, step through the tiny door into chess, leave her toxic parents and the cowardly king behind, and find freedom with Jest, or turn back to the nightmare of hearts.
And precisely at the moment of decision, the universe intervenes.
She hears a scream echoing through the crossroads. And it's not just any scream. She recognizes the voice immediately.
Yeah.
It's Marianne.
Her best friend, her maid, her hopeful business partner.
Right. And how did Marianne end up in danger? Because Marianne, ever the practical, logical one, decided to try and fix everything herself.
She wanted to help.
While Cath was fleeing, Marianne went to investigate the Jabberwock. She thought if she could gather evidence, figure out what the monster was, and present that intelligence to the king, she could win his favor.
It was a business strategy.
Exactly. She thought the king would be so grateful he would grant them the storefront and the funding for sweets and tarts.
But it backfired.
Horribly. Her investigation led her straight to Peter's pumpkin patch. She discovered the horrifying truth about his mutated wife. Peter caught her, locked her in a carriage, and intends to feed her to the Jabberwock to keep his wife satiated.
It is a devastating twist of fate, but it forces us to look very critically at the concept of destiny in this narrative.
Okay.
The sisters showed Cath a horrific future, but we have to ask, did the sisters merely predict the future, or did they actively cause it to happen?
See, I have a massive problem with the idea of passive destiny here. To me, the sisters are not observers, they are instigators.
How so?
They are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Think about it like a rigged carnival game.
Okay.
By showing Kath that visceral, terrifying image of herself as a blood-soaked tyrant, they implant a profound terror in her psyche.
Right.
So when she hears Marianne screaming, her mind is already primed with guilt and fear. If they hadn't shown her that image, maybe she would have thought logically.
I might have made a plan.
Maybe she would have grabbed Jest and the Vorpal's sword and formed a tactical plan. But by showing her that horror, they practically guarantee she will panic, react impulsively, and make the exact series of erratic choices that lead directly to that specific outcome.
The psychology of the self-fulfilling prophecy is incredibly powerful. When you present someone with a terrifying inevitability, it often paralyzes their executive function.
Right. They can't think straight.
Their ability to choose rational alternative paths shuts down entirely. But what makes this tragedy so exquisitely painful is that the sisters don't even need to use magic to trap Catherine.
No.
They just need to use her own personality against her.
What do you mean by that?
Kath's defining character trait, the thing that makes her good, her fierce, unwavering loyalty to the people she loves, is exactly what the universe weaponizes to destroy her.
Oh, wow.
She is fundamentally incapable of stepping through that door and leaving Marianne to be eaten alive. Her goodness is the trap.
That's devastating.
So she drops the potion, she turns her back on the looking glass, she pulls her hand out of Jest's grip, and she runs back into the Nightmare of Hearts, sprinting straight toward the pumpkin patch.
The weaponization of loyalty, that is completely heartbreaking, and it catapults us directly into the climax of the story, the severing of the heart.
Yeah.
The final battle in the pumpkin patch is dark, it's visceral, and it's chaotic.
It is the crucible. This is where Catherine the Baker is burned away completely, and the Queen of Hearts is forged in the ashes.
Kath charges into the patch, wielding the Vorpal sword. The fog is thick. The Jabberwock is bearing down on the carriage where Marianne is trapped.
The stakes are as high as they get.
Kath doesn't hesitate. She confronts the monster, swings the mythical blade, and successfully decapitates the Jabberwock. The beast falls. Hearts is officially saved.
And for one fleeting, agonizing second, the reader is allowed to think it's a triumph.
You really think they won?
The impossible is achieved. The monster is dead. But the mechanics of Wonderland demand a balance. Victory in this world always demands a sacrifice.
Peter emerges from the fog. He is completely consumed by grief and feral rage over the death of his wife, monstrous as she was. And in the chaotic aftermath of the battle, while Kath is catching her breath, Peter raises his axe and he murders Jest.
It's so sudden.
He strikes the rook down brutally, right in front of Catherine.
The prophecy from the treacle well fulfills itself in an instant, like dominoes falling. The Jabberwock is the murdered. Jest is the martyr.
Kath's entire reality shatters. The sensory imagery the author uses here is just devastating. Kath collapses into the mud, her hands entirely covered in Jest's blood.
The physical reality of the trauma.
The boy from her dreams, the soldier who offered her an escape, is dead. And the psychological weight that crashes down on her in this mud is unbearable.
It's too much for one person.
Let's look at the layers of trauma happening simultaneously here. She has been betrayed by Marianne's well-intentioned but disastrous meddling.
Right.
If Marianne hadn't gone to the patch, Jess wouldn't be dead. She is traumatized beyond human comprehension by watching the man she loves get butchered.
Right in front of her.
And bubbling up through all of that grief is a blinding, venomous need for vengeance against Peter, who has cowardly fled into the dark woods.
This is the exact moment of Kath's psychological fracture. The trauma is so immense, so sudden, and so multifaceted that her human psyche simply cannot process it.
It just breaks.
Up until this moment, Kath's capacity for love, her passion for her art, her empathy, these were her greatest strengths. Lying in the mud, she realizes those traits are now liabilities. Her heart is no longer a source of joy. It is a useless, agonizing vulnerability that is causing her physical, visceral pain.
So what does a person do when the pain is literally unsurvivable? She summons the three sisters, right there in the mud.
She initiates a literal Faustian pact with fate itself.
She tells these creepy animal-masked oracles that she wants Peter. She demands that he be captured, brought to the castle, and delivered to her for execution. The sisters, of course, agree to this transaction. but they demand payment. And they don't want bells or feathers this time.
Yeah, the price has gone up.
They demand the heart of a queen.
And Catherine accepts the price without hesitation.
We have to paint a very vivid picture of this finale because the way the book describes it is pure Gothic horror.
It is deeply unsettling.
Kath returns to the castle. She walks into the throne room entirely devoid of emotion. She is wearing head-to-toe black with a thick black lace veil covering her face.
A total visual transformation.
She walks up to the king, the man she despises, and she accepts his proposal. She marries him.
But she is not marrying for status or out of resignation. She is securing the systemic power necessary to exact her revenge. She becomes the monarch.
And then comes the trial of Peter. He is dragged into the grand courtroom by the three sisters, the owl, the raccoon, the fox.
Right into the royal court.
Kath is sitting high on the throne, and the sisters do not deal in metaphors. They climb up the sides of the queen's royal box. Lacey, the sister with the silver hair, pulls out a jagged physical knife.
Literal blade.
And right there, in front of the entire court, she slices Catherine's chest open.
It is a profound, literal manifestation of emotional trauma. Lacey plunges the blade deep into Kath's chest, reaches in, and physically pulls out her beating heart.
The description.
The text describes the organ vividly. It is broken. It is cut almost clean in half by a blackened, necrotic fissure filled with dust and ash.
The most terrifying part is that Kath feels absolutely no physical pain during this surgery.
Not at all.
The coldness of the blade just seeps into her veins, freezing her from the inside out. The moment the heart is removed from her body, everything vanishes.
All the emotion.
All her suffocating sorrow, all her blinding pain, all her profound love for Jest, and every last lingering dream of opening a bakery with her best friend, it's all just gone.
Replaced by nothing.
She is left with nothing but the cold, numb, cavernous emptiness of a tyrant.
The King of Hearts is forced to watch this gruesome spectacle.
He's terrified.
He is utterly terrified. He's stammering and shrinking back into his throne, finally realizing the monster he has brought into his house.
And Kath, totally unfazed by the gaping wound in her chest, simply stares down at Peter, and she issues her very first official decree as the Queen of Hearts.
The iconic words.
3 words that will define her forever. Off with his head.
The cycle is complete.
To complete the prophecy, Raven, the sentient bird who is now entirely consumed by grief over the loss of his partner Jest, steps up to become her dark executioner. And Hadda, unable to outrun time, unable to process the trauma of losing his best friend, completely loses his mind.
The madness takes him.
His sanity shatters, and he begins frantically rambling about why a raven is like a writing desk.
Murderer, martyr, monarch, mad. The prophecy is completely fulfilled. The transformation is complete.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, how do we process a transformation this complete and this dark?
It requires a shift in perspective.
Because looking at it through the lens of everything we've just discussed, Kath giving up her heart is not an act of pure evil.
No, it isn't.
This isn't a villain origin story where someone discovers dark magic and consciously chooses the dark side for power and domination. It's a psychological circuit breaker.
Walk us through the mechanics of that analogy.
Think about the electrical panel in a house during a massive, violent thunderstorm.
Okay.
If the house takes a direct hit from a lightning strike, the electrical surge is way too massive for the wiring to handle.
Right, it overloads.
If the current is allowed to keep flowing, the wires will literally melt inside the walls, the insulation will catch fire, and the entire house will burn to the ground. Total destruction. So what is the house designed to do? The circuit breaker trips. It forcefully and violently shuts off all the power to prevent the fire.
It sacrifices the power to save the structure.
Exactly. Kath's trauma, the sudden butchering of Jest, the betrayal of her trust, the suffocating years-long expectations of her society, it was a psychological lightning strike.
It was too much voltage.
It was simply too vast. The current of that grief would have driven her to complete madness or death. Removing her heart, tripping that breaker to absolute zero, was the only biological way she could survive the unsurvivable.
That is a highly effective framework for understanding her state. The Queen of Hearts is a house with the main power permanently shut off.
Yeah.
The structure is still standing. She is functioning, she is speaking, she is ruling. But there is no warmth, no light, no internal energy.
It's all dark inside.
It is all just cold, imposing architecture. The empathy has been disconnected to save the host.
So what does this all mean? Which brings us to the end of this incredible, tragic arc. When we lay out all the evidence from this deep dive, it becomes blindingly, painfully clear that the Queen of Hearts was never born a monster.
Far from it.
She was a passionate artist. She was a fiercely loyal friend who was willing to spend 5 hours meticulously crafting the perfect lemon tarts just to bring a little bit of joy into the world.
She just wanted to bake.
But she was systematically, relentlessly crushed. She was crushed by the weight of aristocratic societal expectations that told her her labor and her dreams were embarrassing and worthless.
Right.
She was crushed by the institutional cowardice of leaders who refused to face their kingdom's problems, forcing a teenage girl to pick up a sword. And she was crushed by the absolute, uncompromising cruelty of fate.
And if we extrapolate these themes and connect them to the listener's own reality, the relevance is profound.
It really hits home.
It is incredibly easy to read a story like this and point fingers at the bumbling King of Hearts, or judge the controlling Marchioness for her cruelty.
Oh, very easy.
But how often do our own societal and corporate structures operate using the exact same mechanics?
All the time.
How often do we force people into rigid, suffocating roles that they despise simply because of their birth, their economic status, or arbitrary societal expectations?
Yeah.
And how often do we, acting exactly like the willfully ignorant citizens of Hearts, look the other way when monstrous systemic problems ravage our communities? We conveniently force the burden of confronting those monsters onto the most vulnerable people among us.
The toxic positivity of our own world.
Exactly. The text argues that when we systemically crush creativity, when we deny people fundamental agency over their own lives and their own labor, we are actively participating in the creation of the very monsters we later pretend to fear.
It's an incredibly heavy realization. We don't just birth villains. We bake them, ingredient by ingredient, through our own societal complicity.
We build the gilded cages.
Which leaves us with a final lingering question for you to ponder as we wrap up today's exploration. We've talked extensively about the psychological circuit breaker. We've talked about the physical, unbearable weight of human grief. So I want you to put yourself in Catherine's shoes for just a moment. Imagine standing in that cold courtroom, your chest ripped open by the sudden, violent loss of the one person in the world who truly saw you for who you were.
Absolute bottom of despair.
If you were faced with the absolute certainty of an eternity filled with unbearable, suffocating grief, and in that exact moment, you were offered a magical blade to simply cut the pain out of your chest forever, are you absolutely certain you wouldn't take the deal? Until next time, keep diving deep.